everyone is different. So, even the reaching out to someone is different each time. And then going and collecting the things is a different experience each time. Once I have the things in my possession, then it becomes challenging. Then it's sometimes, as like I'm often carrying these things from place to place. And so, when I lay them out, the first time I unbox them, there's an experience. When I lay them out, there's an experience. And I listen to and I try to watch how I'm doing it without being self-conscious. In the same way you make a drawing or a painting, you're trying to respond to whatever you're doing, but at the same time, there's that self-consciousness, and then that goes away. Even in the laying out, even in the accepting of it, even in every aspect, I really try to sort of, let it happen. The same way that people talk about letting a painting happen or responding to a painting. So Jack was one of the founding students of the school, and my connection with Jack is I went on a residency at the Helical Houghton Foundation in Maine, and although I didn't, I got this chair was actually from his foundation, but it was his actual painting chair. I like to joke that, Karen, of course, is an art historian, critic, writer. So someone who's completely rigorous in her research and meticulous with her word choice. So she was not one of the people who, told me everything about every object, which was great and sort of funny, and then really endearing. And in a way, that sort of my description of that experience is kind of how I feel about Karen. I've known Karen since I was a student here, and one of the things I absolutely loved about this place when I went full time was that I could have lunchtime lectures, and I so looked forward to her speaking. I was an art history major in undergrad, and when I came here, it was just everything I wanted to know. So much of this project has been about, in terms of my own artistic practice, is like, I love paint. I'm still very much consider myself a painter, and so it's always paint and color forward in the pieces. And I think you can see that in this one in particular. So I knew, so I went to Avid Paints. I grabbed a bunch of different pigments. I hadn't really worked with resin a lot before, but I knew sort of the color palette I wanted. I knew that red, it had to be red, and it had to be sort of lacquery. So at least when I made the first predella, and then I realized, that's the color for the boards. And again, these were like long thought out, considered processes. I'm not even sure this black, I think it was something else at first, and then I layered black on top. So Graham, I approached Graham to be part of the project, and I have reverence for Graham, and Graham is not the most emotive person, or was not the most emotive person, and I of course was a student for many, many years, so I have like great reverence for him, great respect. So like, Graham, can you be part of this project? And Graham was absolutely down with it. So I went to collect his things, and the first thing he gave me was this brush holder that's in the center of the piece, and I said, great, thank you. And then he handed me a palette. To have someone's palette, of course, is a DNA of the thinking, of the touch, of, in some ways, the artist, right? It's the core of the artist. So to me, it's like an incredible gift. Collecting Graham's things was very personal, and surprisingly more personal than I was ready for in the time. So I was already starting to feel a little I don't know. Yeah, a little emotional when he gave me this. And then he handed me this book, which, when he handed it to me, was closed. So on the front face, you can see that there's a clock face. And so I didn't have any clue as to what was inside at that point. So he said, open the book. And I opened the book to this page, which showed the clock mechanism. And I'm just like, oh, that's great, Graham, thanks, not understanding. And so he said, well, open the book. And I said, okay. And I found, I started to see that there were painted edges. And it started to dawn on me that, oh my gosh, there's a painting in here. So I hit this painting. And I just kind of was blown away. And it goes on. And then you find this series of beautiful, more and more watercolors. You find this parrot next to, of course, Manet, which, sort of makes sense, right? And of course, if you know the painting at the Met, there's, of course, Girl with the Parrot. So it becomes not just a gift of paintings, but a sort of puzzle book, right, that I can learn from over time. On the one hand, you can think of this as a kind of making of a community, and there is aspects of that. It's my own sort of world that I want to create, and not all of it has its origins here, but a lot of it does. But if you had to expand what the school stands for, especially in a time that we've got today in this country, like, what can I give back? What can I add? Well, I can add a building of a community that is founded in sort of generosity. And that's what I think, if I had to say what was in common, what these people have in common, or had in common, some people have passed, is a kind of desire for community, support, a kind of moving forward, a kind of desire for a belief in optimism, a belief in making art. Art can give a kind of a life, and so that's what I'm trying to contribute, is each thing, each person, each piece that's made up of these objects that are alive, I try to add to that life.